Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Trade Ideas Market Recap for Friday, February the 28th. My name is Barry Anderson, and I'm the moderator of the trading room. This is the address to get into the room. You can log in as a guest or use your Facebook or your Twitter account to log in. Now, today was a really kind of a slow day, certainly in the middle of the day. I'm going to bring up the SPY just to show you what I'm talking about here. And you can see at the beginning of the day, we had a nice spike up, and then for this whole period, it was very, very slow, and the market wasn't really doing very much. And then towards the end of the day, in the last couple of hours, I guess there was news out of Ukraine that there was some I don't know if it's was an invasion or what exactly happened, but I mean, Russia and Ukraine are obviously fighting about what's going to be happening, ultimately happen in Ukraine, and so the market really, of course, doesn't react well to any sort of chaotic situation, and so it sold off really, really hard in the last hour or the last 2 hours, and then in the last hour it had a nice recovery. So it made for a little bit of an excitement. Unfortunately, I don't generally trade the last hour of the day. I certainly don't usually initiate any new trades. Certainly there were a lot of potential short opportunities, but I just didn't take any. Now, what I'm going to do today, only going to show you one trade that I actually took, and it was again based on this particular strategy that I'm looking at. I did take a couple of other trades. I took MO and I lost I think 4 cents in it, and I took another trade in BAH and I made a little bit. But this was the only one of any consequence. And again, it came from this particular strategy. Now you don't see PM on here. This is Philip Morris. You don't see it on here because uh, where we are right now, the filters aren't being met. At the beginning of the day, the filters were met, and so, but as we speak, the filters are not met, and so it dropped off the list. But I was able to, the trigger was around, I think it was right around here, 81.16. I was able to get in at 81.19. Rode up the first half to 81.56, and then right in this area here. And then as these candles started expanding, I got out of it the second half at 81.49. Had a nice little pop back up, but by that time it was gone. And then, of course, it basically just drifted down for the rest of the day. So that was really the only trade of consequence that I did today. Now, I have added a nice, what I consider was a very nice column to this particular strategy. This is, let me just highlight it, and this shows the difference between the open and the 20-day high. Because remember what I'm trying to do, the trigger is basically when the stock hits its 20-day open, or it's, sorry, 20-day open, it's 20-day high. So, but the problem is that I'm going to have a list here, and in the morning, it's very possible that, especially if the market is good, that every stock on the open would be well above the 20-day high. So what sort of a trade does that really offer me? I'm looking for it to, come up to the 20-day high and then get a trigger and then trade it afterwards. So I added this column here. It does require a very simple custom formula, but basically what this column is telling me is that TWX, it opened 42 cents above my trigger point. So that right there, that caused me to not take the trade. Unfortunately, in retrospect, everything looks great. I could have taken the trade because it actually went $1.76 above the trigger point, which, so even if I subtract the 42, that's still a nice, that would have been a nice gain at the very high. And even at the close, it would have been a reasonable gain. But I look at this, and the 35 now, this is a $250 stock, so I may actually get rid of the stocks over $100. But when I look at these two, they were already opened above the trigger point. So I would probably shy away from that because again, these trades are not generally going to be super dynamic. So if it's already given if it's already given up 42 cents that passed my trigger, I don't know how much more I would generally get. But I am really liking this. I'm going to keep working on it diligently because I really think there's something to this. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different now because I want to bring this in. This is a new, well, I want to call it a strategy. Well, I guess you call it a strategy. It's a volume surge strategy. And the reason I'm doing this is because I've been getting a number of questions about like how do we really zero in on stocks that have big volume surges. And of course, we have some good volume filters in Trade Ideas, but there are ways in which you can use the custom formula to really generate some very interesting looking surges. And let me just show you these ones that I have right here. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit because it's going to conflict. So here we go. So QGen. So you can see right here, there's a tremendous volume surge that would have been picked up using this. And let's look at MEI. MEI, it would have been right here on this one, and I guarantee you, I've just done a little history on this particular strategies, but if I went back, I guarantee it would have picked up this one also, but it picked up this one. And XRS, the same thing, it would have picked up this one right here, standing out, and also let's look at EMB. The same thing. It would have picked up this one. These times, like this is 310 right here. So this corresponds to these tremendous volume surges. Now, just because, as you know, if you're traded for any length of time, just because you get a volume surge doesn't necessarily mean there's a trade in it. But I always like to see stocks that have these giant volume surges. So now, how did I do this? Because I just want to show you something here. I've added these two columns, and these do involve my custom formulas. And this column, U16 and U30. So what this column, what this is doing, this U30 and what this 4.6 means is that this 1 minute volume is 4.5 times the average of the 1 minute volumes over the last 5 minutes. Now, that might sound like a mouthful, but let me try to simplify it. Let's say over the last 5 minutes, we've had 100,000 shares traded. So on average, in each minute, that would be obviously 20,000. 100,000 divided by 5 gives you 20,000. Well, what I've written is a little formula that says, okay, I only want to see where the current minute is at least twice as much as that average over the 5 minutes. So I hope that makes sense. So that's why you won't see anything, and you won't see anything under 2 here. And that's why we're seeing these big volume spikes because it's comparing itself over to the last 5 minutes. Now the other thing I added though also was I said, okay, that's great, but I don't want to see stocks that traded 1,000 shares over 5 minutes. So that's an average of 200, and then the double that is 400 shares. I mean, obviously, I don't care about that. So I also wrote a little formula, and I'm going to show you. I mean, they're very simple. That says, okay, that 1 minute volume has to be at least 20,000 shares also. So what's going to happen is that you can see right here that everything is above 20,000 shares. Now let's just take a look at how I did that. Bring this up, my formula list. And this is, I mean, I have a bunch of custom formulas that I have written, but this is very simple. I mean, this V16, U16 is how it's designated, and it's volume up 1 minute number of shares. And it's really simple to write it. It's basically just V underscore up underscore 1. And so when you write that and save it as a custom formula, that goes into your filter list. And then you treat it just like any other filter. And so when I see it in the filter list, then all I have to do is put 20,000 as the minimum. So let me just show you that. Configure the summary, and you can see how I've got U16. The value is at least 20,000. So that's all I've done. You see how it's been added just as a normal filter. Here are all the other filters. This is just a normal filter, so I've just put 20,000 in here. So that's going to ensure that that happens. And if we just run up, try to find the other one. I can't find it right now, but that's okay. We'll take a look at how I wrote the other one. And back here to the editor. And this one is U30. So let me go back to the list and find my U30 right here. And this is how I wrote this one. So again, this is the volume up in 1 minute. And basically, divided by, now you take the volume up in 5 minutes divided by 5, so that's going to give you the average 1 minute volume over 5 minutes. And so there's the formula. All right. So it's just a ratio now. And so now that again is added to the filter list. So I have now put 2 in there. So that means again the volume has to be in the 1 minute has to be at least twice what the average over 1 minute or the average 1 minute volumes were over 5 minutes. I hope that's and here is also where you get these. This is where you get the instructions. I don't know if you people have seen this before, but this is the formula editor overview. And this is where you actually can construct these formulas that you can't do with the basic filters and alerts that we have. So this is where I've got this from. So you can see that this can be now start to turn into a nice valuable, and I only did it in the last hour of the day. I wasn't really using it as a strategy, but because I'm now going to add some more filters to it. Perhaps some, maybe stocks have to be up 3%, down 3%, whatever, maybe abnormal volume also. But now this is giving me some really nice volume surges. And I know people like to see that. A lot of people like to see that. Again, does it mean that there's a trade immediately? Of course not. But, generally when there is a volume surge, sometimes there is a very good reason for it. So again, this was not meant to be a tutorial on how to create all these custom filters. I mean, because I understand that sometimes people look at the custom filters, and I know I did a webinar on it a while back, and some people think you got to be super mathematically inclined. You really don't. You just have to kind of get your head around how they work, and it's actually kind of fun to construct these things. So that's it for today's webinar. Let me just, not webinar, video market recap. Again, here's the way to get into the room. I hope to see you there on Monday. It's going to be interesting to see what happens as this news gets digested over the weekend. But, whatever the news is, we try to trade it, and that's about it. So good trading to you all. Bye-bye.